This rip of TFTC was brought to you by River. It's the best place to buy Bitcoin. Go to river.com/TFTC and enjoy this episode.
All right.
Michael Goldstein.
We're rolling.
We're rolling. It's been 7 years. You've never been on the show. This is embarrassing. This is the first time.
Yes.
Sat down to do this.
It's happening now.
It is.
It's happening.
It's happening.
It just started.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
I don't know where to go with it. All right, that's the show. I'm kidding. There's plenty to talk about. You've got a lot going on. Would you define what you're doing with the Nakamoto Institute as a rebirth of the institute itself?
I don't know that it died.
It definitely didn't die.
It didn't die. I think of it as, it's a bit of a revitalization.
Revitalization. That's the right way. I'm very excited.
It was in hibernation.
I mean, I've told you this. I don't think I'd be where I am today without the Nakamoto Institute being where it was when I was on my journey in 2013, 2014.
I don't think I would have either. I mean, I made it out of, all the stuff that had gotten me into Bitcoin and gotten me excited about Bitcoin. That's what went into the Nakamoto Institute, especially in those, early days. So, it kind of follows my own path into Bitcoin as well.
Yeah. What was Bitcoin, the Bitcoin scene in Austin like when you guys were originally writing those pieces?
There was a small meetup group. It could depend on price, although I get the years confused. So just to go back in time, the Nakamoto Institute was started in November 2013. And it's hard to remember those years. It's been a while, but I was in college. I was at the University of Texas. That in particular formed out of the Mises Circle, which was a economics reading group that I had because I wanted to nerd out on all of the good Austrian literature. A lot of the college libertarian groups, you'd come in and it would always want to be just the same topics over and over because there's always some new person and you want to talk about the broken windows fallacy or this or that. And I just wanted to nerd out. I wanted to actually dive deep. And so I made like a spin-off group. So we had a space to do that. And, we were arguing about full reserve versus fractional reserve. And then along came Bitcoin. And we all got into that, and it basically became the Bitcoin Circle. And a lot of the notable Nakamoto Institute articles had originally been published on our Mises Circle website. And then at some point, actually, so yeah, there was also a local Austin meetup group, and I don't remember how many people there were. It was probably like 20 people would come. It felt like a nice group, and sometimes it'd be bigger. Definitely in 2014, things were getting crazy, and so it got much bigger, especially when things were pumping. But yeah, so there was the meetup group, and I specifically remember one. I think it was I want to say it was May 2013. It was at Central Market here in Austin, and this guy, Turda Meester, was going to be in town. They were doing some mining stuff, and I was very excited because I had been following his work on, I think he was on Twitter at the time, but I'd followed his work, and he had good Austrian stuff. He himself has a storied background with Austro-libertarian thought, and so I was excited to meet him, and I got to, and we were chatting, and we joked around, and I was saying, there's a Ludwig von Mises Institute for Austrian economics. There should be a Satoshi Nakamoto Institute for Bitcoin. And that stuck in my head. And then later on in the year, it just, there's, enough had built up, and I was like, okay, let me go throw some stuff on the domain I had bought. And so it began.
So it began. And again, I think it's been a crucial institute institution for many Bitcoiners like myself. And I think the one thing I admire the most about the canon of literature that you've put together, both generated by yourself, Pierre, Daniel, and others, and the Austrian and cypherpunk literature that you've aggregated on the site. The one word I would use to describe all of the content, the combination of that content, is timeless. You can go back and read Everyone's a Scammer, Hyper-Bitcoinization, Speculative Attack, and they ring true to this day. Like, those are, whenever somebody's coming to me, like, what should I read about Bitcoin? Speculative Attack and Everyone's a Scammer are two of the first articles I send them. And I think with that in mind, why do you think those pieces are so timeless?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, thank you. As far as why they're timeless, I think they just hit on some foundational points that have really been able to continually resonate with people. So there's a lot of lessons in there that people can go back to over time and like see a new thing each time. And because we were trying to do things from a first principles attitude. When we got into Bitcoin, there wasn't a lot of like good Austrian literature about Bitcoin. There was some. In fact, some of it was crucial for our own understanding of Bitcoin. Guys like Peter Serta had written his master's thesis, Economics of Bitcoin. And I mean, a lot of our stuff was almost just cribbing from his own economic work. But, you still had to kind of run the numbers yourself, so to speak. And from that, we got to enter in this place where we, I come from a technical background. I was studying computer science, or at least that's what I got my degree in. I was mostly studying Austrian economics on my own. But I come from that technical background, and then, you also have this strain of Austrian thought. So that's more, in the sort of humanities, liberal arts. And this was like fresh ground to be able to kind of really bring them together in a new and interesting way. New, not in the sense that it's like rewriting everything. It's actually, I think it rewrites very little, if anything. But it's able to give that real fresh take that really forces you. And one of my favorite things about Bitcoin with regards to Austrian economics is the fact that it's such an abstract idea. It's an idea in our heads that we instantiate into some code that communicates with one another. It's all abstract. And what's interesting about that is that forces us to take certain precepts of the Austrian tradition much more seriously than we had to previously. Things like subjective value, where it's like, well, value is so subjective that, I can actually have reason to place a high premium on some cryptographic strings, which is very strange and very hard for many who are not as technically literate, as knowledgeable to be able to make sense of. And then it also, then forces us to think about, in Austrian economics, we want things to be itself is supposed to be timeless. We're dealing with logical theorems about the very nature of human action. And so when you're getting into that realm, you're talking about action in a very pure sense, because it's the only way to really make sense of typing away in cyberspace. So it does invite going back and really making sure you understand those concepts seriously to be able to work through it and do well. So I think we generally did a pretty good job. And I think over time, people have come to appreciate that as well. and in many cases agree. And yeah, I think it's forced a lot of people to rethink money. And so when you have a set of ideas that was so good that we can take books from the 1800s and the early 1900s and apply it well and have a totally workable monetary theory that holds up through, you know, everything we've seen with Bitcoin, it makes it more and more difficult over time to not ask, why is that? You know, what makes those ideas in particular so special that they don't get knocked down? And in many ways, you know, I don't view myself as a genius or anything like that. I just I locked in on what ended up being like the best ideas to sort of be locking in on when you confront something like Bitcoin, because nothing else has quite been able to make sense of it. And that's really given it a sense of timelessness where you can always come back to it. And, you know, I do want to do my best to add to that tradition of creating, you know, what are real, true economic theorems that are not dependent on time and are really just baked into the fabric of reality.
This episode was presented by River. River is the best, most secure place to buy Bitcoin in the United States. Go to river.com/TFTC, set up an account today. You'll be able to DCA into Bitcoin without paying any fees. You'll be able to give people Bitcoin via River links. You'll be able to send and receive Bitcoin over the Lightning Network, and you'll be able to set limit orders. If you want to buy Bitcoin at a particular price below or above where it is now, you can set orders to buy Bitcoin when it hits that price. Go to river.com/TFTC and set up your account today. This trip was also brought to you by our good friends at Unchained. Unchained is building a financial services platform for a Bitcoin standard. They have over 7,000 clients that are securing over 90,000 Bitcoin with 12,000 keys on their platform. Their platform leverages Bitcoin's native multi-sig properties. Their cornerstone product is their Vault product, a 2 or 3 multi-sig Vault, which allows you to hold 2 of 3 keys in a multi-sig quorum. That gives you full control over your Bitcoin. They also have an IRA product, a lending desk, and they're rolling out a bunch of other products, including an inheritance protocol and sound advisory. So go to unchained.com, set up a call with their concierge onboarding team today. Tell them that TFTC sent you and use the promo code TFTC at checkout. Unchained.com. I have a couple of things I want to go down here. Is a lot of people give Ron Paul credit, and he deserves a lot of credit, but do you think Bitcoin specifically has driven a lot of the resurgence of attention on Austrian economics, or is it just part of the growing attention and fervor behind Austrian theory that seems to be picking up over the last few years?
You know, a few weeks ago, I could have just joked. It was like, no, everyone just like decided they wanted to read Ludwig von Mises, and now everyone's. But we actually, you know, we had the Brazilian fighter. I apologize, I cannot remember his name.
Reno. But Moyaka, I believe.
Yeah, he had, you know, his absolutely tremendous speech about why everyone should go read 6 Lessons by Ludwig von Mises. But yeah, so that joke doesn't work anymore. But yeah, I think in the early days, it was that Ron Paul movement was certainly a huge catalyst for libertarianism in general, and the sort of Austro-libertarian tradition in particular. I was not directly brought into that because of Ron Paul, but I was in that, you know, kind of cohort, broadly speaking. And, you know, he's the one who taught us all, you know, effectively, him and his friends at the Ludwig von Mises Institute were the ones who taught us what fiat money is, why fiat money is bad, why sound money is good, and so on and so forth. And so that really did, I think, drive that back in the day. And I think more recently, though, you know, Ron Paul, he lost in 2012. You know, not treated fairly, surprise, surprise. But in any case, you know, he did not continue on after that. He's, well, through politics specifically. I mean, he's still been a powerhouse since. But, the libertarianism as a sort of like political force waned completely after Ron Paul's demise in the election. And I think a lot of people, felt like, they weren't winning anymore. Like there was no hope of winning. Like libertarianism was just like a losing strategy. And so all kinds of different people ran off in all kinds of different ways. And that kind of died off, but Bitcoin was still there. And that's what I was, continued to be drawn to. And because Bitcoin does what it does, by 2017, we had another bull run. And that really was another major turning point because it showed a lot of people that this thing, if they didn't know about it before, they learned. And if they had learned about it before, they learned this thing is still alive. Why is it still alive? And that sent a lot of people down the rabbit holes. And I think a lot of those people, if you were just coming in then, you tended to be probably more just in it for the money. In terms of like gains, at least like in that moment, you show up and it's like, wow, this thing's going up a lot. I want in on that. Why wouldn't you? And as it goes up, though, you get sucked in. It's you get pushed down the rabbit hole, and it's hard to get out. So since that, those people though, they just showed up because they wanted to make a quick buck. I'm sure a lot of them. Or it sounded interesting or whatever. But same thing that I was describing earlier. It's like, how do I make sense of this? And you ask enough of those questions and there's going to be these answers. And thankfully Bitcoiners, because we heavily skew towards more of a libertarian disposition, broadly speaking, it was much easier for someone to stumble across Austrian economics literature than it would have been previously. And I think another major turning point for this was in the beginning of 2018, Saifedean Ammous, our friend Saifedean, published the Bitcoin Standard, which quickly took over for good reason as the definitive sort of Bitcoin book to read. If you just need to learn about the why of Bitcoin, that remains the book to read. And I think that that also meant a lot of people were already into Bitcoin and they start reading that and now they want to know more about like how did Saifedean come up with this stuff, which is he was reading about Austrian economics. I mean, I've talked with him about Austrian economics for years, thinking about these things, and so that was a huge turning point as well. And then I guess there's also a lot of people who now they get handed a book. It's like people are passing out the Bitcoin Standard all over the world, and those people, their introduction to Bitcoin is through this lens of Austrian economics, and so people's guard has really gone down. We've gone from being a sort of crank way of thinking about economics to, at the very least, a formidable, force
to be reckoned with.
Yes. Yeah. So that's been fantastic. And I mean, the fact that is, and then on top of that, they decided to just like wreck the global economy. So that's one way to teach people about money, good and bad. And so that has also, played into this a large part since. And we are now, fiat is a term that people know, which was not the case. Like we were learning that word from Dr. Paul, and it was a totally crank thing, Now
it's like a meme. Like that's very fiat of you.
Yeah. And everyone, but like even the sort of normie world, like it's part of the dialogue now. And so it's extremely exciting. And as those people talk about it, it's like now there's more Bitcoiners and they've studied up on this. And so when people get into it, they're finally learning. It's easier than ever to learn proper economics and actually understand what's happening to your money and how we can fix it. So very bullish times.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about my journey too. It's interesting because I studied economics in college, got my degree, in economics, but was inundated and indoctrinated, or they attempted to indoctrinate me with the neoliberal Keynesian view of the world. And I did not understand Austrian economics until I got into Bitcoin, found the Nakamoto Institute, started reading what you guys were putting out, and then in parallel with the economics I was being indoctrinated with in college, reading the Austrian view and comparing the two, not only with each other from the theoretical standpoint, but at that time, that's when QE2 was starting, and people were beginning to use Bitcoin on the Silk Road, or not beginning to, it was towards the end of the Silk Road stay. And I was like, this makes a lot more sense to me. And then kept diving down, obviously here today, and fully understand that this is a monetary phenomenon. That's another thing, going back to the timelessness of the Nakamoto Institute and the literature that you guys put out there over a decade now at this point. I think it's timeless for me, at least, because at the same time I was studying economics and discovering Bitcoin. That's when like the social media craze was going, tech was big, apps were big, and you had this Silicon Valley explosion going on in parallel. And that was, and still is to this day, very confusing for people that look at Bitcoin and view it as a tech phenomena and not understanding.
Think of it as a new app.
Yes.
You have a new app.
We have a new database that we can anchor into, this distributed database.
Whatever app you have, you can make another one.
Yes.
So you can just make as many of these as you want, and you can fundraise that way.
Yeah.
This is the future.
We don't need middlemen to fundraise now. We can ICO. But the point being is, like, I think even to this day, I mean, we see it now with I don't think it's as strong as it was in the past, but the market for altcoins, you have all these smart contracts, all these
well, they've had to adapt.
Apps.
Like every time they have to adapt. Well, one part of it is the history of altcoins is almost like just watching a history of like web marketing skills. Because it starts, you go on like Bitcoin Talk in 2013, and it's just, there's a board for it, and it's just like you have in the brackets like ANN, announcements. Like I got Gorilla Coin, and it's like it has 65 million coins, and it, and so on and so forth. It has 5-minute blocks.
It's a fair launch proof of work system. So we're going to launch it on this date, and anybody can mine it. That was it's fun, and it's funny to see how egregiously scammy they've gotten over the years with like the early days of altcoins. It was like, if you're going to launch an altcoin, you had to make sure that it was a fair proof of work launch. You announce the date, and anybody could participate, like ICOs. I guess
Ethereum really pulled off doing the pre-mine, as like a legitimate way to be, quote unquote, legitimate way to launch your coin.
Yes.
And then suddenly everyone pretends like that's like a totally justified thing, and it's like good because now they get a bunch of development money
to go work on the world computer, the virtual machine,
unstoppable code.
Yeah. But for people out there who may be confused, in your mind, is this more of a monetary phenomena, a tech phenomena, or a combination of the two? A monetary phenomena enabled by tech?
Money is a technology.
That's a good point.
There's I think I do believe that, money is a technology. But yeah, I mean, I think people tend to lack what I think is a strong theory of money to even understand what it is that money is. But they do understand tech. They understand how to make an app, and so they can put it in those terms. People will just, want to shove things in boxes based on what they already know. So I think that, that can be part of it.
Yeah. And why would you argue that people should focus more on the money than the tech?
Because in this sense, the technology exists for the purposes of creating a better money. It's, I hate to be that guy. It's like, it's right there in the white paper. But it's, that is the purpose. That was like the teleology of Satoshi sitting down at his computer. he's very clear about this in his posts about it. And I'm not saying that, you have to take it as gospel or something like that. I'm just, the guy clearly, or whoever it was, CIA team, whatever it may have been. Satoshi Nakamoto, when he sat down at his computer to make Bitcoin, I think his best post on this actually is his first post to the P2P Foundation. He gives this great thing about monetary debasement and the need to remove the trust that is always abused and so on and so forth. That's why this thing was made, So this is what's always been the sort of bankruptcy of the idea of blockchain, not Bitcoin. It's like, the purpose of blockchain is to enable Bitcoin. So it's actually the other way around. You've probably hammered that point a gazillion times on this show, so I'm sure your listeners already know that. But, I think we have to think about the sort of teleology of the what is the end of actually creating that technology in the first place. And this one, it was like better money. And so we should focus on, well, what does it mean to be better money? And I would argue that Bitcoin does a great job of being better money on many, many dimensions. And that's what makes it great, not some data structure underneath. The data structure is great insofar as it succeeds in making good money.
I've been told that Bitcoin Season 2 is here, and Bitcoin really exists to inscribe JPEGs into metadata that are hashed on chain.
Yeah, I'm sure they're having fun.
Quick break here, freaks. This rip is brought to you by Gradually Then Suddenly, a framework for understanding Bitcoin as money by Parker Lewis. I wrote the foreword to the book. I'm honored to have done so because it's the best 0-to-1 primer if you're looking for a logical explanation of why Bitcoin obsoletes all other money. Buy one for yourself and maybe a few for your friends. Go to thesafehouse.com/gradually. That's thesafehouse.com, safe spelled SAIF, thesafehouse.com/gradually. Use the promo code TFTC for $5 off at checkout. Buy it now, freaks. The price of Bitcoin is going up. You need to understand it. This is the best 0-to-1 primer. This rip was also brought to you by our good friends at Zaprite. If you're a Bitcoiner and run a business or an independent contractor, you should be accepting Bitcoin as payment. If not you, then who? If we believe that fiat is systemically fragile and is a risk, the rails that currency runs on are a risk as well. You need to begin accepting Bitcoin as soon as possible. Invest in the future of your business. Create a redundant rail by accepting Bitcoin as payment using Zaprite and reduce risk for your business. I've done this for my business. Here at TFTC, we use Zaprite. It allows you to easily create invoices, payment links, or connect e-commerce stores, connect your wallets or custodial accounts, and be set up in minutes. We can also connect our bank accounts, our Stripe accounts, our Square accounts to accept fiat as well. The time is now, freaks. The fiat system is fragile. Invest in the infrastructure that de-risks the future. Invest in yourself. Bitcoin payments with Zaprite. Go to zaprite.com/TFTC to get $40 off their annual subscription. Zaprite.com/TFTC, $40 off. It's frustrating watching it and understanding that this is a monetary phenomenon. People are trying to apply this tech lens to it, put it in that tech bucket, because a lot of people got burned. And we had this discussion last week in the comments, and you were putting in the context of you had a conversation with a venture capitalist that is focused outside of Bitcoin and trying to better understand Bitcoin and how to, like, I think the listeners would get value in how you framed it to him. Like, how should somebody who is used to investing in tech and applications, who wants to get into Bitcoin and invest in the space, like, how do they need to change their lens on how they view Bitcoin and companies building on Bitcoin?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people, they talk about building on Bitcoin, and usually what they mean is like, okay, what's the cool app we can do with Bitcoin? What's some like additional thing? And a lot of that's great. There's a lot of great companies here in the Bitcoin Commons that are doing just that on many different, in many different ways. But the real building on Bitcoin, the foundational building on Bitcoin is like more has to do with, are you accepting Bitcoin as money? That is, like, are you holding it on your balance sheet because it's, you know, better savings? Or are you accepting it? Are you sending it, you know, spending it where it's reasonable to spend it, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, with that, you know, conversation, I was kind of going sailor on them, you know, melting ice cubes. You know, you can have an amazing VC firm, and I know very little about VC. I've thankfully avoided that and just been able to, you know, do my humble sat stacking instead of, you know, caring about the next, like, you know, cool app or whatever. But even if you have an amazing VC firm, maybe they're incredible and they're doing, like, I don't know, like a 50% return or what have you. That's in dollar terms. And anytime any of these people are talking about their returns, thinking about their returns, thinking about the companies, they're always thinking in dollar terms. And that's always a losing proposition, because, you know, if, you know, I tweeted the other day how my ground beef just last week, you know, went up at a 17%. So it's like, you know, if actual inflation is for you, you know, anywhere from like 12 to 20%, that means all of that work, you know, whatever returns you think you have, you always have to subtract all of that. And so maybe your returns aren't as good as you think. But if you're not, if you're using that exact currency as your unit of account, thinking about profit or loss in those terms, you're not going to see that, because you're only going to see the, you know, plus 50% instead of the, well, and then I have to minus 20% because it's lost a bunch of value. So it's plus 30%, which is also awesome or whatever, but that's a lot.
Not as good as 50. It's
not as good as 50. And this happens year over year. You know, hopefully we won't see 20% inflation year over year. Although, you know, maybe we see worse. These things compound. And so this is why I've also said for a long time, it's like, honestly, 2% inflation is hyperinflation. And I won't let anyone tell me otherwise, because the fact that half of my purchasing power can be taken from under my feet in, 30 and change years, that's way too fast. Yeah, that's at a hyper speed for me. I don't like it one bit. So that means every year you're having to work that much harder, right? So you need to be thinking first and foremost about being on a Bitcoin standard if you want to make sense of those numbers correctly. Once you've done that, now you can begin to ask the questions of what are the best ways to make returns. And right now, for most people, there really isn't like a reason to have to do anything but just go, buy Bitcoin, hold, put it under their mattress in their, cold storage keys or whatever. There's nothing you need to do more than that. And that's actually the way it should be. Most people shouldn't have to think about investments and highly specialized businesses and stuff like that. But VCs are in that business, and they actually do have a lot of good knowledge to their entire job is to be able to seek out those kinds of ventures. So now they can just reprice all of those things. And it might be the case that like 98% of what they're looking at is actually a waste of time. And it's a lot of hard work for nothing in the end, because all of the inflation ends up eating up what you thought were gains from this thing you were doing. In which case I see that as a good thing. Like we should, liquidate the fiat economy as much as it needs to, because it's we've been operating off a bad unit of account. So we've all been misguided by bad price signals. So it might be the case that they might have way less to do to make the kind of returns or better just on a Bitcoin standard. But now when they do find things that have a return on a Bitcoin standard, you really know it's good returns.
Yeah.
Because if you can beat Bitcoin, over a sustainable time period, you have hit an incredible jackpot. So you're making really good decisions if you're doing that. So yeah, basically my point was you have to first and foremost think about how Bitcoin operates in your individual balance sheet and then go from there. And that helps you reprice everything in your life to think about what is actually valuable and what is actually just, dead weight that you brought on because you live in, a fiat clown world.
Yeah. Growth at all costs. Spend. Get your KPIs up. Don't worry about making money. That's what VCs are typically worried about.
Yeah. I just think of, like Tyler Durden is like, how's that working out for you?
Like to that end too, that's very scary for an incumbent VC whose whole framework of operating is in that world where it's like, hey, money's easy. We just spray and pray, hope that one makes it and we make that 50% return without factoring in inflation. But it seems like with interest rates where they are, with the economy where it is, people are going to be forced to think hard about these problems and think about Bitcoin on their balance sheet if they want to survive into the future, which gets into natural apprehensions that a lot of, it's not only VCs, but individuals, corporations have, is they view the need to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet as a signal that something has gone terribly wrong in the incumbent financial system. They almost don't want to believe that. And an allocation to Bitcoin is a validation of the fact that things are devolving to shit. And everybody immediately goes to Mad Max scenario. If the dollar's failing, if money's not flowing through the economy, through the dollar system, things have gone terribly wrong. That's bad for humanity. Bitcoin succeeding is a validation of that. And I think
I don't really think about like that's not how I view it at all.
Exactly, and that's what I want to get to is like that again. Another incredible talk that you gave is the art of Bitcoin rhetoric, and really framing Bitcoin the correct way to people, because I think most people's frame is that frame I just described, where Bitcoin's going up means everything's going to shit. And I think you do an incredible job of highlighting that there is a path. There's an optimistic view of Bitcoin success that people should embrace, which is Bitcoin actually fixes a lot of these problems and can make the world a much better place much quicker if you accept it and embrace it. You embracing it does not mean that everything immediately goes to shit.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, I just said, just like, we should just like liquidate, the economy or whatever. And when people hear that, they probably think like, oh, that's like a, let's just like crash everything. But actually, so the article on hyper-Bitcoinization basically explains that when you have what would be termed a hyper-Bitcoinization event, which is basically the rapid adoption of Bitcoin as a monetary good, which I think is happening right now. I don't know how you go from, 0 to 70,000 in 15 years and have that be anything but hyper-Bitcoinization. It's just a matter of do we think it'll continue, and it will. But when you do that, when you adopt Bitcoin, it's not the same as hyperinflation in the sense that hyperinflation is a breakdown of money, whereas hyper-Bitcoinization is an upgrade of money. Bitcoin is better at coordinating a division of labor. It's better at helping people price goods because it's more scarce and, all of the good things about money. It's an upgrade in your monetary operating system. And so when you're liquidating things, it's those things were not sparking joy. And, we need Marie Kondo to help us in this economy. It's just like, get rid of the things that don't actually spark joy. And if they're not actually either getting a Bitcoin return, or it's not like actually sparking joy for real, it's not bringing you some value, then, you don't need it anymore. and you shouldn't have it. And your life is actually worse off when you have a ton of cruft, you know, when you have a house full of just absolute junk you don't need. That's not gonna like be good for your psyche. And it's not like no one sees someone who cleans up an extremely dirty house where you just kept getting things because in your mind you thought, oh, well, I need that thing. That'll make me happy finally. No one like looks at the person in the, you know, before and after and looks at the after where they cleaned up everything that they realize it's like, I don't need that. That's not actually valuable for me. They don't look at that and be like, you know, oh, that person, what a tragedy, you know, that person's going through. Everyone's instead like, wow, what a change. What a wonderful thing. And I think that's just, you know, that's us in Bitcoin where we clean up our lives by actually repricing things and figuring out is like, is this worth the sats? And there's a lot of things that are worth sats. You know, I buy food every day. I like eating so I can live. I prefer that to more sats. So yeah, it's not that side of it is not a negative thing. And now going forward, when you're making decisions, you're not doing it based simply off, you know, oh, I think I need that or something. Maybe I need that. You know, you see like, you know, the homeless guys who they have like the shopping carts full of just like any possible thing. You never know when you're going to need it. You don't have to live that way anymore when you have, you know, you know, some financial security by having real savings. And so now you have a lower time preference and you can think farther into the future and you actually think carefully about the choices you make. And so that spray and pray, you know, kind of attitude from a VC, that to me is that doesn't sound like a good VC to me. I'm not like against the very notion of a VC. I actually think it's very exciting to be able to, the thought of being able to give money to an early stage business or technology or whatever and see where it might go. But it's like, if I'm going to do that, I don't want to waste it on, I don't want to spray it. I want to find the things that are actually cool and take it very seriously. But that also might mean fewer. It also could end up, you know, in the long run being more. I mean, I don't know what the correct balance is. But whatever we see, most of it is driven by, you know, chasing fiat returns. And I just think that's a losing proposition.
Yeah. But there's this whole idea of disruption, right? Like not in the tech sense, but in the quality of life sense. Like if the governments continue completely demolishing the global financial system by printing money and issuing debt, and people are unable to rely on the dollar or the other currencies that they use, that there's going to be a period of time where things are very chaotic.
Yeah. And it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, with all of that in mind, I mean, the status quo is that the economy is going down the drain at some, you know, given rate that's, you know, sometimes feels like it's accelerating more and more. So that's the status quo. So it's like, you know, the fact that people can get on Bitcoin as this lifeboat, you know, it would be very strange to blame the lifeboat for the sinking ship.
Yeah.
And to also not view the lifeboat as a good thing. And, you know, I think being in a lifeboat, you know, even if we're imagining a chaotic situation, being in the lifeboat after getting off the Titanic sure seems a little more calm than, you know, actually being on the Titanic.
Right.
So I'd take it, you know, even, you know, in that situation, you're not in a good time regardless, but Bitcoin actually shows you a path forward. Whereas anything else, I mean, you know, all the schemes they had, you know, like, you know, look at, you know, the Weimar Republic or something, and all like the sort of fake monies that they were trying to throw out, you know, after things went bad. That was not helping, but we don't have that issue. And in fact, before things have truly, you know, things are not good right now, but we have it very good in a historical sense.
Yeah, imagine a world without Bitcoin right now.
Yes. So we're you know, we're at least here to comfortably, have a discussion. Having Bitcoin actually, gives me a way to have hope for the future.
And that's something people desperately need right now. Like going back to like framing, that's well, I think again, the art of Bitcoin rhetoric and the way that you frame Bitcoin for over a decade now is extremely
always be bullish,
hopeful, optimist, always be bullish. But like,
now the important thing from that talk, which people have really enjoyed that talk. I've kind of enjoyed the fact that it's sort of become a cult classic. A lot of the talk is like very tongue in cheek. So certain bits of information kind of like resonate at sometimes others do, sometimes none of them get across. But I think, an important, like on a more serious note, a lot of the talk was about dialectic versus rhetoric. So it's like when you are engaged in discussion with someone, is it a good faith discussion? Are you actually together because you're trying to learn from one another? Or is someone in bad faith and just trying to, trick you in some way, waste your time, whatever it might be. And a lot of the always be bullish, that kind of sentiment, it's not as though you shouldn't believe that there's anything negative happening in the world, because there's always plenty of negative things you can find. It's that when people are attacking Bitcoin out of bad faith, they don't earn a nuanced discussion. And so with them, it's like, no, we're going to anchor at the most bullish possible vision, and then we can work our way backwards with the nuance. But we have to start, we have to at the very least accept Bitcoin is a fundamentally better money, and the world is adopting it at a very fast rate. And that's generally a good thing, because it's a good thing when the world has a better money than a bad money. So by default, I think of all of that as bullish. And there are times where, maybe things don't go quite as well. Maybe a jurisdiction, bans something to do with Bitcoin, and things have to reorient for a bit. And so in that time period, things are not as nice. Think of the Bitcoin mining ban in China. And we watched half the mining network go offline overnight. And that's in that moment not exactly like a positive thing.
If you're a Chinese miner, if you're an American miner, it was a great thing.
Yes. And then in the long run, it's higher than ever. And, so the hash rate, life finds a way. So in that, it's like, I believe that, we have to anchor with a framing that takes Bitcoin seriously, because if you go from the other way, you're giving in to just fundamentally incorrect models of the world anyway, because you're kind of saying that, Bitcoin, is Bitcoin not bullish at all? Like, how are we supposed to, how should we qualitatively think about Bitcoin's bullishness? I have a hard time thinking about it unless I start at, that most positive extreme and work my way back of like, oh, we're making this trade-off, but it's, that's gonna, work out fine. It's like, I wish we could have the biggest blocks in the world and have, tiny transactions and all that. But, that's not how it works. So we'll move on with a positive attitude. But that's a nuance we can add, but not to the haters, because they don't like Bitcoin in the first place. So you're not going to convince them anyway. You shouldn't let them dictate the terms of your thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the haters, the state of the haters, they're in a bit of disarray. They've been taking a lot of losses on the chin.
Any.
Yeah. I mean, Yuval Harari was out earlier today. Did you see that?
I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw there was like a there was a clip of him. He's a funny looking guy. Like he cultivates a very particular like. He seems like the like a bad guy mad scientist look from like some dystopian sci-fi movie or something. Him and they all like they're really good at capturing their proper aesthetic,
their essence.
They really they know how to cultivate their looks. I hope I can I hope I can learn to cultivate my own look, whatever that might be, as well as they do. But for their weird stuff. But yeah, it's like, the distrust, like these people distrust in the government. It's like,
distrust in human institutions.
Gee, I wonder why there would be any amount of distrust.
Well, it's interesting because it is a sleight of hand that he's using. Again, going back to framing, the way he's framing it is like, Bitcoin is bad because it signals that humans have a distrust in human institutions in the form of governments and financial institutions like central banks, and it completely neglects not even the fact, but the idea that Bitcoin itself could be a human institution that humans are putting trust in.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is exactly right. I mean, they get it exactly backwards because Bitcoin is actually generating trust. I mean, just naturally speaking, just a complete stranger is not someone that you're going to easily be able to trust. And I don't know my local central banker. So, he's not coming around, my neighborhood to shake hands and come talk about my needs and how I'm feeling at the grocery store and stuff. So it's like, it's a totally faceless person. We know Jerome Powell's face. And it's like, otherwise it's just this big faceless institution. Even their building is like very, it's
uninspiring.
It's sort of like this imposing thing. It has that sort of it's like this kind of Art Deco-ish. I don't know the exact time period, whatever, but it's just like this big imposing building that it just like screams. It's just like, we're a big faceless institution that controls you. It just has that weight to the building, but. Why would I have any reason to trust this person at all? I don't know Jerome, I don't know Jay Powell. So how can I trust him at all? So they just assume that they should be trusted. And then they get mad when people are like, I don't know what you're doing there. And it's not really helping me out. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is the opposite. Bitcoin accepts that by nature, we're not going to just automatically trust some random person on the internet. As the number one thing you do not do is just trust some random person on the internet. And instead, it has a mechanism of proof of work and that consensus building. It's built on cryptography so that you can verify signatures and actually see that they went through a valid chain of custody and so on and so forth. That actually creates trust. It creates a thing that we can trust in. Not because we just assume that other guy knows what he's doing, but because we can work together to actually create that trust through these techniques. And so, yeah, they get it completely backwards. And you're exactly right that they want us to then turn around and say, yeah, we should distrust, and that makes us sound like we're crazy insurrectionists, whatever. It's like, no, we're just a bunch of plebs who want to be able to buy our dinner and take care of our family and stuff, and we have this Bitcoin because this allows us to do it very, very well, and so we do.
Yeah, and the whole idea that, again, going back to the framing of Bitcoin is seeped in distrust of human institutions, again, assumes that Bitcoin itself isn't an institution that was brought about by humans.
It's
right?
Literally just humans.
Yeah.
It's not
Running
like code
plugging.
just writing itself. I don't know of AI that's gotten powerful enough that it just on its own decided I should have a Bitcoin node. Although if that happened, it'd be just choosing to run a Bitcoin node. So because as a sentient being, you'd rationally come to the conclusion that you need to run a Bitcoin node.
I need to verify.
They would just be, you know, if you can pass the Turing test or whatever, then you're effectively, you know, in some metaphysical sense, you can be, you know, reach the status of human. I'm saying that in I don't actually like necessarily mean that. Someone's going to come like, you know, correct me. But, you know, my point is like, even in that, it's like, okay, well then you're somewhat human. And in that, yeah, you're coming together to build this institution with us. But literally, yeah, Bitcoin is all people. It is all people holding keys and running nodes. And if you're not holding your own keys, well, someone else is holding the keys. Someone literally has to be holding the keys somewhere for any of that Bitcoin to exist in relation to the rest of the network. And if you're not running your own node, someone else is, because it's the only way that you even have any kind of interface to that Bitcoin network at all. So it is all people. And we actually, that's one of the great things about, you know, thinking about Austrian economics here, is that Austrian economics has a concept called methodological individualism. And what that's saying is individualism, not in the sense of like, I'm the only thing that matters and something like that, but more in the sense that when we look at an economic system, we do have to remember that the actual place of decision making is not really like this collective will. There's not this like grand like you know, essence of a group or something that's making a decision. It's actual people within that group making decisions that together forms that group. So, you know, as you know, one of the examples Mises gives is like, you know, it's not the state that executes a criminal. It's the executioner. Like at the end of the day, there is someone who's making a choice, performing an action that does something, and it's those actions are made up of individuals. And when we think about Bitcoin as well, we have to think about it from that. It's like individuals who are choosing to generate keys, individuals choosing to run a node, individuals choosing to bring those together, individuals choosing to sell something, whether it's dollars or beef or something else, to receive money into those keys that's verified with that node, and so on and so forth. It's all individuals making choices along the way, and then it's up to us to determine, why is that happening? Why would people make that choice? Why is that a rational decision? Why does it make sense? You know, why should people want to be a Bitcoiner? And that's a good question. But people like Yuval Harari, they can't think past it. It's like, you know, they just aren't smart enough to like us. Yeah.
And going back to like your Jerome Powell example, like you've never shook his hand, you know what he looks like, but he's never come to check in on you.
He's welcome at the Commons.
I'll welcome him. Jerome, come on down. We need to get a full node running at the Fed. You guys are going to need some Bitcoin at the pace you're going right now. But applying,
they can buy quite a bit, and they print a lot of dollars.
Yeah,
I mean, they can if they just slow it down a little bit, because if they print too fast, Bitcoin will go too high for them to be able to buy more. But you know, they're already skimming off money from the American populace to buy up assets. It's like they could be buying Bitcoin too.
Yeah, consider reading Speculative Attack.
They're going to need somewhere to store those Bitcoin. So, you know, we can get MVK down here and hook them up with some cold cards they could have 12 cold cards and a multi-sig.
Can we trust them though?
Can they trust themselves?
That's a big question.
It's a huge problem. The principal agent problem.
Yeah. But going to this, like using Harari's argument against him, it's like with Bitcoin, it's like, no, I can trust, like I don't have to trust Jerome Powell. I can trust my computer running this node to verify that Bitcoin is operating in the way that I think it should be to secure my wealth. And
it's also, I mean,
I can trust that.
It's like that, you know, the classic Principal Skinner meme, the Simpsons meme is like, am I out of touch? No, the children are wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, he's basically saying that. It's like, you know, is it possible that any of my human institutions have done anything wrong or not to the best of their ability, perhaps even unethical? No, everyone else is just completely wrong for not wanting to, you know, play with us anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like they're getting desperate, like with this type of propaganda campaign from Harari. Then you have things going on here in the United States at the federal government level where...
I think it's fun that he has to make posts about Bitcoin.
Oh, I love it. He made a comment in a Bank of International Settlements webinar, and then people caught that, put it out, and then he was forced 2 weeks later to come out and justify his position.
I liked all the hashtags too. He has like the most like cringe social media intern guys, like hashtag institutions, hashtags distrust. It's like, it felt like 2013 Twitter again, where it's like, let's hashtag everything.
The hashtag has really died.
The only hashtag I use is Bitcoin, because it's you get the little Bitcoin logo. And if there wasn't that, I wouldn't hashtag at all. I don't think it's aesthetically pleasing. You know, a lot of tweets are just, you know, shooting from the hip, but there's other times it's like you want to craft the perfect tweet, you know, sometimes to the point where it's like, are the words going to balance out correctly, you know, because it depends on how wide the tweet is going to be. It's like you even just like want the words just to be right, so it just like when you see the tweet, everything about it needs to be just like poetically perfect, and the hashtag rarely comes up, you know, in my mind when it's like, oh, I want to make the perfect tweet, let me make sure that it has all of these, you know, hashtags in it.
Well, this is one of your personality traits that I really admire, is the attention to detail that you put into all this, whether it's the Nakamoto Institute, the attention to the detail that you've put in to not only the redesign, but how you're architecting the back end to make sure that the content is accessible quickly. You can, it's translated into multiple languages slowly but surely over time. But then, I mean, watching you create a lot of these videos, your articles, your presentations, you put a lot of thought, and you think, I like to think that you think that it's very important to be precise with messaging and the propaganda that you're putting out there, if you will.
Yes. I mean, like I said, I mean, sometimes you're just shooting from the hip, and sometimes that's just the best way to do it. My most popular tweet to date is still one that...
The Wall Street one?
The Wall Street Trader one from 2017. I tweeted that, and after I tweeted, I was just like I just thought in my mind, I'm like, you know, pulling out my phone and like, haha, you know, just putting it out there. And after I put it, I was like, that's kind of a dumb tweet. I should delete it. But
it got picked up by the Wall Street Journal, didn't it?
Financial Times.
Financial Times.
Printed. It's in the print. I have some copies. I had some people mail me some copies. So that was my high point. Everything's been downhill since.
I wouldn't say that.
No, I'm just kidding. I won't let the fiat guys define my high point. Plus, Paul Krugman calling me out was probably even more fun for me.
When did he call you out?
Sometime not too long after that, actually. There was a Vice article about Bitcoin carnivores.
Oh, carnivores, yes.
Like, when I said Bitcoiners are cultists, I was understating things, and he quoted me, and that was where the fiat food stuff, you know, kind of started out, because that's where I coined that phrase. But anyway, so sometimes it's just like shooting from the hip, but other times, yes. I mean, I think you know, another broad, important lesson of the talk I gave is just like, this is all rhetoric, and there is an art to rhetoric. You know, this is something that's been studied. You know, it's one of the classical liberal arts. You know, you can go back to Aristotle and read his book on rhetoric if you want. You know, and it's been something that people study, have studied since, and it's extremely important, especially in the modern age where we're, you know, I feel so trite saying all these things. It's like, we're more connected than we've ever been. The internet, social media. We more of our lives are spent broadcasting messages out to people. It probably is important that those messages, be effective at whatever they were intended for. What you're intending them for can also, completely vary. Sometimes you're just wanting to troll. Sometimes you're trying to make a real point and get through to someone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like, you should actually, try to do something. In fact, just the act of engaging in language, the very point, like that you would even open your mouth, is because you're trying to use language to have some given effect on someone else's brain so that you can, coordinate in some way, or, whatever sometimes it might be fighting words. So it'd be to not coordinate. But if you didn't have that, motivation to want to cause an effect, you wouldn't open your mouth at all. So if you're going to open your mouth, you might as well, do it well. And sort of make it most effective at what it is. So, I'm not perfect at that, and but I do like to think about that from time to time. And there are certain times where I get that feeling of like, I really actually want to put effort into this one and really make it just right, because I think that it can have an effect. Yeah, and I want that effect.
No, it's been fun watching you work on some of this. Particularly what I'm thinking about is what would you call it, a commercial? I think it was the 15-year anniversary of the white paper with the 2001 Space Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you literally timed it out with the music. And then at the end, we went back and forth for a couple of days about like one particular word that you put in.
Oh, yeah. I don't even remember which one it was, but there's, for people who watch it, there's like a whole list of like all the great properties of Bitcoin. And the whole thing is about the, evolution of, the ideas of crypto anarchy and the cypherpunks and such, leading into the development of Bitcoin, and that, unlocking, technological greatness the way that you see in 2001: A Space Odyssey. And so there's like a list of all the great things about Bitcoin, just like, highlighting this thing is just amazing. And I struggled with some of the words, because there were some. I think there was like one that I wanted to put in that was like
immutable. I forget what it was.
One of them that I wanted in there, and I don't think I kept it, was network governance.
Yes.
And it was like, we could have a whole rabbit hole discussion on just that concept of network governance and what does it mean, and and yet it's like, well, you also need, a 3-hour discussion to get through what it means. And it's like, I want this video to be enjoyed by a broad audience. So if they see network governance, that's going to fall flat. What's a word that I can put in there that would do the same thing, but not fall flat and get them excited? Because the whole point of this video is I want people to watch it and get pumped up and excited about Bitcoin, which, at least in you, seem to have succeeded. Yes. I remember you kept watching it. I think you even watched it on the podcast.
Yes, we did. It's another one of my favorites, the bull, when the bull began its run.
Yeah, that one was not me.
That was not you.
That was not me. Yes. I was the
conduit for getting that to the world.
I was asked to share that one, and because I had an audience, and I graciously accepted my task. And with that one, I did think about, what should the text be? And I actually thought, courtesy of my anonymous friend or whatever, it would have taken away from the tweet. It needed to be, the simplicity of like, do not forsake your descendants. And so, my friend didn't mind that he wasn't, he was making this anonymously. He didn't care at all. And, but that was the case where, my tweet around it, that was actually what inspired me. Is like, oh, I should try making some videos. I don't know how to make videos. I just, play around. But that was what inspired me, because I had read somewhere that videos on Twitter just have an insane amount of engagement. Versus other stuff. And, you know, I wasn't making videos, and in some ways, when videos started showing up on Twitter, it was kind of annoying. It's like, that's not my Twitter. You know, back in my day, we only had 140 characters. You know, so you know, there's like videos now. It is like kind of annoying. But I saw that as like, well, my friend wants this video to get out. Let's see what we can do. And you know, I was able to succeed, and to see, it was like, wow, actually, engagement really did happen. It's like, okay, if you want a tweet to get out there, you should probably put a video on it. You know, that's one of the things you can do. And so that inspired me. It's like, okay, well, what are other videos I can make? And you know, I've made quite a few that I've quite enjoyed.
Well, and I think it's, again, I don't want to be too trite, and we live in the social media age, but I think whether it's your anonymous friends, The Bull Began His Run, 2001: A Space Odyssey, commercially put out last year, Pump It Up. Did you do a Pump It Up video? Oh no, you did the Bulls theme song. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, the dun, dun, yeah, the Gary Glitter. Yeah. Don't look into his biography, by the way. Someone was very upset with that video because of that fact, and I was like, I
did not know this information.
I'm not gonna lie, I did know it, but it's like, no, this is I'm not including that song in a video because I've read the man's biography and it's like, I support everything this man did, including this criminal activity involving children. You know, that's not what was going through. It's like, no, this is like, you know, I'm a 90s kid, and we had jock jams, and I'm ready to pump up the crowd. And this is how you pump up the crowd.
And it worked.
Yeah. So yeah, that was using Rock and Roll Part 2 by Gary Glitter.
And it highlights
the Hey song.
Like you doing these videos, your anonymous friend doing these videos, some of the best marketing material in video format that I've seen for Bitcoin over my decade plus in the industry. And it's just a bunch of dudes fucking around on their computers. And you have companies like Grayscale, Coinbase spending probably tens of millions of dollars to produce and put out worse propaganda.
Yeah, some of them are like close, but they just don't hit the mark. And some of them, they're really good at shooting themselves in the foot, and putting out like an anti-signal. So I thought, for instance, was it Bitwise that did the most interesting man in the world?
Yes.
I thought it was brilliant to bring out the most interesting man in the world, because of course the most interesting man in the world would be interested in the most interesting money in the world. But then at least it turned out that there was, I think there was like a proper like national commercial that was like on TV that was not this, but the one that they actually put on Twitter that I saw, because I'm not a boomer, I'm on Twitter, I'm not on cable TV. I don't have cable. I don't have a TV. I have my computer. It was like they're trying to sell Bitcoin. It was like, wait, we can bring in someone better, and it's like it had the most interesting man as an actor. Like they broke the fourth wall more than they're supposed to. You're supposed to break the fourth wall just in him looking at the screen saying, whatever. I can't even think of his tagline at the moment. I'm.
What is it? What is it, Logan? What's his tagline?
Pull that up, Logan.
It's the "Stay thirsty, my friends."
Yes, stay thirsty, my friends.
Yeah. So, that's a way to break the fourth wall as a part of the commercial. But instead, it completely broke the fourth wall. It was like, actually, this guy's not interesting. He's just this paid actor. It's like, no, you need the mythos. You need to believe that he's actually, going through the, jungle and doing, fun stuff.
They could have taken my lines from the Pleb Lab, interesting man in the world. He could start a fire by rubbing 2 Bitcoins together.
Exactly. Like,
let's critique this. Is that a good line?
I like the work Logan does over here. Logan does great work. We love our Logan. Yeah, so like that it just, to me, it just like broke my heart, because it was like, I'm just imagining if you gave me a couple $1,000,000 and you handed me the most interesting man in the world, we could think of some things. Like he'd be, you know, rubbing Bitcoins together to make fire. And we can make something that's really cool. That's like actually paying homage to that, because it's something that everyone knows. That's very smart to do that. But it was like, what a self-own to like, oh, Bitcoin's actually this fake thing that you need to pay someone to pump. It's like, no, it's so interesting that, because part of what's like the mythos of the most interesting man in the world, he's like doing things that you wouldn't even think of as possible.
Yeah, it's like the Chuck Norris jokes applied to another character.
Yeah, and it's like, it's in this world, it's like, I could only dream of, like, I can't even dream of that, because I couldn't have thought of doing something like that. Bitcoin should be so cool that it's like, you had to be that guy to be getting in on Bitcoin, and now we're inviting you to this once exclusive thing. You're invited now. But instead it's like, hey, actually, we don't even know how to sell it to you, and like, we're gonna like pay this guy to try, please buy our ETF. It's just it's a bit of a cell phone. And you know, I don't know the guys at Bitwise, but you know, it's just it's not how I would have done it. And to me, you know, that framing matters.
It does.
You know, but you don't want Bitcoin to look weak. You want Wall Street. They're trying to get in. We're not begging them. I don't care if they buy Bitcoin or not. They care if they buy Bitcoin or not, because they need it.
Yeah, no, and it does a disservice to the normies out there that are still watching cable TV, seeing this poorly directed propaganda.
Yeah.
And
the other one recently that I was critiquing at some point was the Coinbase ad. That it was like, you know, the system is broken, et cetera, et cetera. And that one, broadly speaking, was good. Like, a lot of people loved it. And my criticism, it really comes down to the, you know, the details, but it's like these details that I think could make a big impact. So in that one, it's like, the system is broken, you know, and now Coinbase. I was like, okay. First of all, well, I like the edit that it's Bitcoin. It's just Bitcoin, you know, at the end. As you know, the thing instead of crypto or whatever, like this broad thing, like actually narrow in. But the thing that I would critique about it, as much as that one actually, you know, was much better, the critique that I would share, you know, if they wanted my opinions,
which they should
call me. I think my DMs are open. You know, DM me. I can give you my feedback. They set up how broken the system is, but they never actually like deliver a solution. So they set up why everything is broken, but they don't come around and say, and Bitcoin fixes it. So it's like, you're left with what? You're left just, you know, being bummed that everything is going bad. And I don't see how that's inspiring. That's just that people like wallowing in their problems, and I personally don't want to enable people to wallow in their problems. I don't want them to ignore their problems. I want them to take their problems very seriously. And it's like, if we're taking the problem seriously, then we can find some solutions. And the same feeling with that, what was that song everyone liked for 5 minutes?
The
Oliver
Rich Man North of Richmond.
Yeah. It was such like a depressing song, and it was just like, woe is me, I'm poor. Where's the Bitcoin fixes this? It should have had like a bluegrass breakdown at the end where everyone's you know, getting excited because now we're stacking sats. Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead it's just, you know, woe is me.
No.
And the dollar ain't shit. Well, it's like, that's okay because we have Bitcoin.
Yeah. And I think I was talking about this with you last week. That's it. Again, going back to like rhetoric, propaganda, not focusing on doom and gloom, which I'm guilty of, is highlighting a lot of the problems. But what I've been trying to be more effective at is highlighting solutions. Obviously, Bitcoin being one of them, but highlighting how people can take action to stack more Bitcoin and take agency, at least over their financial lives. There is something psychological about the messaging, whether it's what we're doing as Bitcoiners more broadly out there over Twitter and other other means by which people access information that's being disseminated by millions, billions of people across the world, is that I think positive messaging is extremely important because it sort of feeds on itself. And
I think there's something to that. I just think it's too easy to be negative, and I know that I could easily turn into negative Bitstein if I wanted to right here right now, but I'm not going to because I don't want to. I don't really like wallowing in that. And I do want to actually genuinely find solutions. I think it's easy to start critiquing and getting upset and less about, what is actually the thing we need to do. I think this is, it's also, it seems like, broadly speaking, just in the world, it's anytime someone's positive, that tends to be a target for other people. Because if you're positive about something, you are, sort of implying that other people who might not be as positive are doing something wrong, which, my hope would be that it would inspire good self-introspection, because I want other people to be, more excited about the future like I am. But others might just take offense to that and want to cut that down because maybe they don't want to do that self-introspection or, something like that. But being negative is definitely like, that just seems like easy mode.
Yeah.
I want a challenge, and if you pass the challenge, you win. So I like that too.
Yeah, no, it's on Twitter specifically too. No, the videos, like that's the big trend over the last year is the individuals sitting in their car complaining about their lives, whether it's the cost of food at the grocery, how unfulfilled they are with their jobs, how unfulfilled they are with their ability to find a mate, a life partner, if you will, a husband or wife. And it's just, it feels like there is this, we've reached this event horizon of negativity in these selfie videos, people complaining about everything. It's like, you need to find Bitcoin, and some of them need to unplug a little bit.
Yes.
Touch grass.
Yes. I think it's a fun exercise to think, how does Bitcoin fix this? Because it's like, it's not even me joking. I do think that Bitcoin actually fixes most everything. What I mean by that is that, insofar as much of the world is driven by various economic decision makings, when half of that is, or all of it is sort of based on a broken system, it's going to lead towards less than optimal things. But when you reprice that, like we were talking about earlier, the incentives start to fix itself. And a wise man once said, "Fix the money, fix the world." So but it is fun to actually go through that exercise of in what ways might this actually be true. And if you go through that exercise, you might actually find some real solutions somewhere. And although, those people, they get on social media because they want attention. That's why I get on social media. I don't get on there. Like, occasionally I'm fine with, a tweet that, that one's just for me, and I don't care if it doesn't get any likes. But, once again, it's like the purpose of opening your mouth is because you're hoping something happens. And I do suppose for a lot of people, it's more about attention than it is the particular content of what they're saying. And in that sense, they're highly effective. But, I'd recommend a different life path personally.
Yeah.
Try to win more at just the TikTok likes won't, necessarily turn into more food on the table.
No. Well, some people,
if they get like an ad deal, has anyone started like doing advertisements on like the super negative stuff?
Twitter, that's probably how they're monetizing most of this stuff.
Which also then like adds like a deeper weirdness to all the noise of people who are, I guess, there's plenty of people who do this, but being paid to be like bearish and doom and gloom
I mean, it's
I guess like that's the Alex Jones business model.
zero hedge, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is.
Are you selling water filters yet?
No, not yet. I do recommend
Vitamins?
it, though. No. I have a Berkey at the house, though. I like it. We have a water filter in our shower.
Good. Don't want to use fiat water.
No. Apparently the Chinese...
If you understand.
The Chinese are attacking our water systems now. The government sent out.
Are they?
I don't know. I think the Department of Homeland Security sent out a warning earlier this week. They're attacking our water.
It's getting into Dr. Strangelove territory. You seen Dr. Strangelove?
I have not.
Yeah. You know, Mandrake, have you ever seen a communist drink a glass of water? You got to watch it.
I've got to watch it. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll resonate. With,
Quote highlight is, "Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room."
That's a good one. I got to watch Dr. Strangelove.
Classic Kubrick. But there's a lot of people, I guess, feeding off the negativity, and I guess I am just wondering, like on TikTok specifically, in what ways may that monetization? In which case, like you're just watching, a bunch of ads for this, and although there was the old Last Psychiatrist, I don't know if you've ever read that blog, old school blog, back in like, I don't know, 2010, 2012 era, that time when blogs mattered. It was in many ways a much more fun internet, because you just end up in very strange corners of the internet. There's just totally different things going on, as opposed to now where you have a lot of different people, but they're all piled onto each other. Mm-hmm. So it's much more like just contentious and everyone trying to dunk on each other, as opposed to like people kind of forming real subcultures. Yeah,
could Trilemma be produced today?
No, there's an interesting one too. But so the Last Psychiatrist had one about his whole thing was about like narcissism. He just kind of chalked everything up to narcissism, and he had to think about advertisements, and people complain about, oh, the advertisements are, they're controlling us or whatever. But he had just this point of, if you see the advertisement was for you. It's like, if you didn't want to see it, you wouldn't see it. I think there's truth to that as well. People get mad at the algorithm on social media. And it almost feels like a cop-out.
Yeah, you should do more introspection.
Yeah, you should always be doing more introspection.
Recognize how to protect yourself from the algorithm if you're worried about it.
Well, there's also ways to think. It's like, look, I'm sure that there's all kinds of nefarious things going on. However, let's imagine that, we don't have state actors trying to mess with things, just for the sake of argument. Even in that case where you just, I'm a company, I have an algorithm that is trying to recommendation engine because I want to find things that people like. If you go on to a website and you are effectively telling that website, what I like looking at is just absolute doom porn 24/7, and the more doomy and gloomy that doom porn is, the more I get off to it. The recommendation engine is going to be learning from that fact. And so in some ways it's like, yeah, if you see that stuff, it's for you. you wanted to see that. Like, I don't know what Elon's doing over there, but some of that stuff that's under the For You tab, yeah, that's for you. You just don't like that it knows you better than you want to know yourself.
That you're willing to admit.
Because I've seen other stuff. There was this one time, I don't remember who it was on Twitter. It was one of these kind of, more, kind of esoteric accounts. I don't know how to describe. Just kind of like one of these just interesting, weird guys. And he had this thing where he had been on TikTok, and he was purposely trying to train TikTok to give him videos of the most oddly specific genre of music. And it was something like people playing music in a boat under a bridge. And it was just like a lot of swiping until it's like, okay, I'm going to swipe right on the videos that include this one thing. And it's like, you train a model off enough information, it's going to pick up on these things. And sure enough, he was like posting a bunch of videos he was getting of people playing music in a boat under a bridge. And, you know, that's not what I would hope to train my thing for. Maybe I would. You could have that. You'd have like a nice Venetian man in a gondola, you know, push rowing you around singing Sole Mio and stuff like that. Maybe that'd be nice, but you can train it.
Yeah.
You can decide how you want to train it, and so you should also think about in what ways am I just being complicit. Like, in what ways am I inspiring the state of things? And I don't think people bring that up enough in these discussions around algorithms and social media and all of that. Is in what ways are you sort of asking for it? Yeah. I used to have a phrase that I know a friend liked that was just like, you know, there's no trolling, there is only getting trolled. And it's basically this point that's like, you know, why are you not putting up better DDoS filters? I mean, we all know the internet is just this fire hose of insanity. Surely you're going to want some firewalls. You should probably build some and think carefully about what firewalls you want.
Yeah, the block and mute buttons exist for a reason.
Yeah.
I use them liberally.
Yes.
Even though some people think that's a cop-out. I'm like, yep, nope, blocked. I have adopted the save Dynamis.
He's very hardcore about it.
If you annoy me, block.
It depends on the day for me. Sometimes I enjoy, you know, some of the stuff that I wouldn't like just because, you know, sometimes I want to see that stuff to keep up with it, or sometimes I do want to, you know, see something I don't like, like the doom and gloom or whatever. But I do think we could all try to be a little more self-conscious about how are we acting in the world instead of externalizing it every single time. It's like the algorithms.
Yeah. I've had to. I was getting fed, and what does it say about me? I was getting fed for a period of time there, probably a month, like a bunch of just inner city murders on Twitter.
That's what you're into.
I had to go in and block all the accounts.
There actually is. You can click the thing and say not interested in this post, and be like, I want to see less posts like this.
Yes, send me less murders, please.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Elon's listening.
Yeah.
He's here to help.
Thank you, Elon.
Soon it'll just, you know, the Neuralink will just pick up on the negative emotions and know not to give that to you.
Yeah. If it's programmed a certain way.
Or it'll get the negative emotions and feed you more of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, with all this being said, platforms versus individual publishers, and opining back to your comment about the internet as it was back in 2010, 2012. I mean, that's one thing I'm trying to do at TFTC is have my own website where my content lives. That's my little corner of the internet with the Nakamoto Institute. I mean, it seems like you're really leaning into that as well as a safe haven for people to access this information.
Yeah. Owning your own domain is very important. You know, I think we've learned that. You know, Twitter has changed. X has changed. In that there's a lot more, you know, free speech and whatnot. A lot of people have been brought back. There's a lot of people are saying things that they otherwise would have been banned for. And there's sort of less concern for people like me that speaking about Bitcoin is going to have me waking up one day and not have an account, which, you know, if it happens, so be it. But, you know, I enjoy Twitter. I think it's a lot of fun. And so I would be sad. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you don't want to depend on others for all of that. Oh, like your online well-being. At that point, you know, you're an online serf. And, you know, for some people that might be what you want, but like you aspire to nothing but an online serf, just content farming for the big men in charge your whole life. But some of us want to try to rise above that, and I think it's important to have your own presence online, to build an audience and have multiple ways to be able to get in touch, so that anyone in particular is not going to cut off your ability to talk with the people who want to hear you, and the people who are valuable to you.
Yeah. And I mean, let's talk about the plans for the Nakamoto Institute moving forward. You've done this redesign. You're in the middle of...
Well, we haven't done the redesign yet.
Have the redesign. You haven't implemented the redesign.
Yes.
You're raising funds to get that across the line.
Yeah. Well, we talked earlier that, this thing has been around for a long time, and we have this revitalization. We didn't even really get into the revitalization part. So, as Bitcoin has grown, it has become more clear to me that these really are important ideas that need to be shared, because without these ideas, if you don't really understand what money is, why we have Bitcoin, and so on and so forth, what really makes Bitcoin special, you're probably not going to come to the conclusion that I need to hold my own keys, I need to run my own node, and so on and so forth. And if you're not doing that, you're giving up on one of the great, blessings that we've been bestowed today. We've never had such a capability in the history of the world until now to be able to do these things, and you're just giving it up. And if you're giving it up, you're not passing it on. And that means, future generations are not going to learn from you that being able to hold keys and being able to run a node is a seismic shift in humanity, in our history. And that, to me, is extremely important, to be able to transmit that knowledge so that we don't just, I don't want all of us to just die and then Bitcoin is done. I want Bitcoin, the purpose of making Bitcoin is we want it to be long-term. We talk about generational wealth. Well, if we want that wealth to actually, exist into future generations, they need to understand what made that wealth in the first place. And we can't just hope that happens. Someone does literally have to sit and think about Bitcoin for it to work. And if you don't, others might still. But then you're going to be the, you're going to be out with Peter Schiff and Mark Cuban, trying to like mow lawns or, compete with, lawn robots just to get some sats. Because, Spencer Schiff is working on his, AI stuff. So like his dad might not even have a job because of his son using AI to, completely outbid his own father for his petty attempts to try to get the sats that he did not stack all those years. It's very important that we pass on this. Like, so other people might still have that knowledge and they'll benefit from it. But you may even still benefit just by the virtue of existing in a world that Bitcoin still exists in, if someone managed to hold on to it. However, you're not benefiting as much as you could have, and neither are your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren or anyone else, all the way down the line until the heat death of the universe. So, and even for those people who did hold on to it, they have this same problem. So like anyone who wishes for their wealth to maintain itself faces this problem. You always like the sort of the succession problem is probably one of the most difficult problems in any sort of social structure. It's how do you pass things on? and I don't want Bitcoin to die. I want it to live. And I want this wealth to mean something now and in the future. So as Bitcoin has grown, it's really become clear how right we were and how right I think we're going to continue to be. And this means that it is incumbent upon us to take that extremely seriously. This is like, everyone's a scammer. The underlying message is take your take your future seriously, because the choices you make today do impact your future. And so with that in mind, the Nakamoto Institute has sort of gone through this, revitalization. We are now a actual formal nonprofit. We have a 501c3 tax exemption. So we're, like official. We're state sanctioned orange pillars. I don't know how we get away with it. They are the IRS is allowing us to go out and preach the good word of Bitcoin. And I'm happy about that. So we've done that, and now we have this website, which has been somewhat in dormancy, but I think it's played such a good role in the Bitcoin world up until now. I hear all the time how much people got out of it, which, always I find very moving. I was a kid in my, college dorm making a website. And so I still remember the first time I got an email from someone who is, I think they were from Russia or something, or from a different country. And they just emailed to say, hey, thanks for making that website. And that was like this moment. It was like, wow, when you put stuff online, everyone's watching. And, sometimes that, can be a negative. But other times, you also don't know who's listening. And it could just, change your world, or it's a bigger audience than you think, and you have more influence than you think. And so I think it's extremely important for us to think about this future. And with this sort of piece of real estate, this entity, this thing, the Nakamoto Institute, I think it was time to actually take it seriously and think. It was like, I don't know if anyone else I could want to give it to, because I don't know if they're going to be a good steward of it. It's like, to me, knowledge transmission is such a precious thing. It's not something that you just want to hand over to anyone. You don't want to just send your kids to some random school. You don't want to just hope that the local neighborhood teacher is the right one. So that inspired me to take the Nakamoto Institute very seriously and do this. And now, for one of our first big efforts, we have a lot of little things going on, trying to build towards right now of setting the stage for this new phase. We recently opened up a translation community. We're trying to increase internationalization efforts so that...
It seems like it's happening pretty quickly.
Yeah, people send in stuff all the time, and I try to get them out as timely as I can. So we have, I want to say 14 or 15 languages represented, or it's at least some amount of content on the website is available in those languages, which is amazing. It's unbelievable to me. So there's stuff like that, and we're eventually going to be working towards publishing stuff. But, like physical publishing. But one of the big things right now, and we have a fundraiser going on for this, is trying to raise money to do a redesign of the website. And we already made a new logo that kind of defined this feeling of wanting to create timelessness, because we need, if we want to be able to teach something to our great grandchildren, I'm scared to know what the world's going to be like. It's going to be a very strange and different world by then. But economics is not going to have changed. That is, like, praxeological, logic is not going to have changed. Bitcoin itself, like as it is not going to really be that much different in terms of like its basic functionality. There might be all kinds of opcodes we never foresaw, and that might have unlocked all kinds of interesting transactions. But the same cryptographic process of signing messages and sending, all that's going to be the same. So I wanted to make something that had timelessness, and I also wanted something that had be in touch with the past, because these ideas did not just crop up out of nowhere. You don't just like wake up and be able to make Bitcoin. I don't know what Satoshi knew, but I do know that you have to have some level of knowledge of various things. At the very least, you have to be in the water of certain traditions and the work that they did in order to come up with the idea of putting together proof of work with a blockchain type data structure, and all of the different digital signatures and P2P networking and all these things that had to come from somewhere. And likewise, when I said earlier, it's like the economic ideas that I have, they're all based on centuries old stuff. I mean, the origins of Austrian monetary theory, go back to the, 1500s or so, maybe before that, actually. The School of Salamanca, the Spanish scholastics, a bunch of monks thinking about money, and that was sort of the basis of where we are. It was centuries of building on those ideas that lead us to where it's like we can make sense of this Bitcoin thing. And so we shouldn't, in order to be able to go into the future where we want to, we should always be looking towards the future and building great things for the future. We can't wallow in the past, but we have to learn from the past, because that's how we got here and had the technology available to put it together to build that thing. And so trying to sort of connect that tradition, whether it's the crypto anarchist or cypherpunk or Austrian tradition, link it to the future. So I wanted something that has sort of, an older feel, something that's, a little more stately, but, also has room for a futuristic vibe. So we were able to capture that, I think, very well in the logo. And it has, 21, which I think is the glue that holds all of this together. It's sort of the meme of all Bitcoin memes. And now what I want to do is bring the whole website sort of in line with the aesthetic principles that we put into that logo, because I want people to have that feeling when they go to the website that these are not just cool ideas. This is like, it's not just stuff that, any dude can like start up a podcast and just start, like we're just going to like have like college dorm room philosophy type talk about, Bitcoin, man, like that's cool. That's fun. We're doing it now and I'm enjoying it. No, but like, I want people to know that it's not merely just this like kind of cool idea to play around with, but these are serious ideas.
Incredibly serious.
When you read, Mises or Rothbard, it's very serious stuff. When you read Nick Szabo, it's very serious stuff. And I want to give it that recognition. And I want people to have that feeling when they come in and they see this. It's like, this is probably an idea that I should be taking seriously. And I think that the look of the website needs to comport with that desire for it to be effective communication around that thing. And so I want a world in which people take the ideas of Nick Szabo, of Hal Finney and Timothy May and Mises and Rothbard and Hoppe and so on and so forth. I want a world that takes those seriously. And, part of that is to, invite people to take it seriously. And I think aesthetics do happen to be one of those things that it can seem sometimes vain, but I think it's actually, it gets to the core of things. It's our first thing. It's in many ways you can judge a book by a cover, because the cover is the first thing you're going to look. I don't even want to look inside. Like if I'm just like scanning, it's the cover that tells me, it's the thing that invites me in the first place, unless I already know what I'm looking for. Maybe it's the title, but even then it's like, you know, how is the title, you know, shown? Like, there might be something that catches me. And I don't think that should be taken lightly. And I think it plays into a lot of things. A lot of us are, you know, have gotten into architecture and such, and how fiat and sound money might, you know, how the different incentives around architecture change. And I think it's the same thing with aesthetics is, you know, when you're spending every day in these buildings and you're choosing for them to look a certain way, you are basically saying that the look of it embodies your principles. And you should think carefully. Are these the principles that you want to be embodying? Is this the principle that you want to share with people? And, you know, yeah, so I think we should take that seriously. So we are in the process of raising money so that, you know, design work is not cheap when you want the good stuff. And so we are raising money to be able to pay a designer to be able to help us with that mission. Because, you know, the website, it's I think of it as small because I'm thinking of it in terms of like these small beginnings. But as I was rebuilding the whole thing, it was just reminding me there's a lot of nooks and crannies all around it that have to be redesigned. But you know, we're raising 21 million sats. And I think we're up to 14 and change. So we're looking for, you know, about 7 million more sats, which is getting more expensive. So fundraising is going to get more and more difficult as time goes on. But you know, we're raising that because we want to, if you share our belief that these are very important ideas, then we invite you to, you know, help us make it important so that others around the world now and in the future can also look to it and be drawn in by how it looks, how they think about it, like really, truly embodying these ideas.
Yeah. Giving Bitcoin and everything that led to it the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
And again, the attention to detail, it's I think it's a lost, I don't want to call it an art, but it's a trait that's been lost with today's society in this fiat world. And
I mean, it's high time preference, right?
Yeah.
Because with low time preference, you have time, and you can think carefully about the long-term ramifications of something, because you can think about those. If in a high time preference world, you just have to worry about getting food on the table. But once you've settled that, you can think about, well, I don't care about just how this looks right now. You know, I can just have it whatever. In fact, you know, the site is functional. In fact, many people have told me over the years that they think it's a perfectly fine looking website. But I'm thinking not just in terms of like the guy who's coming across it online. I'm thinking about, you know, generations to come. And also, you know, people from all sorts of backgrounds, you know, how do they feel when they see this? Does it make them want to read it and think about these ideas? Or does it make them kind of think like, oh, it's just, you know, it's just this Bitcoin stuff. And this was also going into our logo design because, you know, we wanted to avoid using like orange and using like the bee and all of that. It's popular. It's great. It's now, but I don't know that those memes are going to, you know, hold up forever. That might just be something that's, you know, that was the first 50 years of Bitcoin. We kind of had that look. And then, you know, over time, as it becomes more of a background thing, in the sense that people aren't spending their whole day thinking about Bitcoin. It's just, it's their money. Yeah. Maybe they don't have the same like reason to use like a, you know, have a very like provocative logo that, you know, it's in your face. Like, orange is very Bitcoin. In your face.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to try, how could we create a sort of Bitcoin aesthetic that's outside of the sort of typical existing memes. What we ended up finding inspiration from were Renaissance printers' marks, which when the printing press was made, different people, like you have a whole burgeoning industry around a brand new world-changing technology. And when people made something, it's like they want to demonstrate it's like, I was the one who printed this. And so they made they're basically like brands. And it's like, I'm the one who printed this book, so that, back then too, you can go to the Harry Ransom Center here in Austin at the University of Texas, and you can see one of the original Gutenberg Bibles. And those things, I mean, it's still in one piece, and it's a massive book, beautifully bound. That's made by someone who cared very deeply about the thing that he was putting on paper. And the people who were making those brands were people who they took great pride in the work that they did, because that book, it's not just a commodity book, it is their book, and they wanted people to know that. And so that was sort of their way of identifying it, so you could have that sort of reputation. And so you have the same feeling. It's like, well, you can come into Bitcoin and there's a lot of different places to learn from. Why would you want to learn from us? And the reason is because our intention, people can judge whether or not we do it, but our intention is to find these timeless truths of Bitcoin and do our very best at communicating those to people from any different walk of life, and not just today, but also in the future. And we take pride in that, and want to be able to communicate that, so that people see that logo and see that we take our Bitcoin ideas very seriously. No matter how I mean, anyone who knows Pierre and I know that we're very cheeky individuals, but part of that cheekiness, like underneath, and just like in my meme talk, is like we can have all the trolling and fun, but the only reason that it really matters is 'cause underneath,
seeped in truth, and
we're trying to ground it in truth. Yeah. And so I want people to feel that when they go to the Nakamoto Institute, is this is not just another website, and this Bitcoin stuff is not just some like how many times did you try to talk to someone about Bitcoin? It's like, yeah, I just haven't really like gotten into it yet. It's like, okay, well, if you go to an ugly website, you're not going to want to like read it. So why would you have picked it up and looked at it?
Yeah,
I want to take it seriously.
Yeah, I'm again very happy that you are, because I think we need more people taking not only Bitcoin, many other things much more seriously. Yeah. So I think leading by example and putting as much thought and attention to detail that you have for this revitalization is a great example to point to. It's like, we need more of this. Yeah.
Well, Bitcoin fixes this. I think there's going to be a lot more of this, because as people liquidate all of their fiat nonsense, and they only have the things that spark joy, they're only thinking about the things that spark joy. I think it really does open up people's mind. We see it all the time in Bitcoin. People totally changing their lives and reorienting themselves towards a really positive vision. I think that's why there's so many Bitcoin babies. Everyone else is complaining about the fertility crisis or something. It's like, I don't know. I'm on Bitcoin Twitter and I just see baby after baby.
Yeah.
You're on Bitcoin Twitter, you might start to worry about overpopulation for real. It was like, we're going to need Elon to set up Mars bases with just to have a place for all these Bitcoin babies.
Yeah.
So, but I think that a lot of this stuff comes from the fact that it really does, upgrading your money opens you up to repricing everything in your life, finding what you truly value, and improving those things and acting on them and cutting out other stuff to the point that everything is leading towards actual improvement of your life.
Yeah.
And it's a very positive vision. Yeah. It's awesome.
And if enough individuals do that, society as a whole we'll get better. We're positive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this happens at like the margins, one person at a time. And then, at some point you wake up and it's everyone, and everyone's happy.
Gosh, we could keep going. We're like 3 hours in, or 2 hours in almost. One last question. I know we got
shoot
rush hour hitting here. What do you, I know we just talked about your goal with this revitalization, and again, trying to bring a degree of seriousness and to Bitcoin and how people approach it. What are your thoughts on the current discourse around Bitcoin? How are we doing? What can we do? What can people be doing better? What should we be focusing on? What are some low-hanging fruits that you think we're missing?
That's an interesting question. So I've been so wrapped up in this that in many ways, a lot of the things that are going on in the discourse I see, but I don't necessarily have a super hardcore, like hardline opinion on this or that. A broad feeling that I've been having is that, and it kind of comes in some ways being able to step away and just kind of be focused on this. And so you're kind of out of the discourse and then you come back and see how it is. I think it'll be great if I can succeed in trying to create better spaces for serious Bitcoin thought. Serious. When I say serious, I don't mean like without jokes or anything like that. I just mean, intentional and purposeful.
Going back to the dialectic.
Yeah. Being able to get to that. I imagine there's a lot of ways that we could find the golden mean around a lot of these things that get very heated. So I'm just thinking, for instance, of like the ossification debates, because people see certain things emerge in Bitcoin that I would agree that I'm not exactly a fan of, and they immediately want to have everything locked down. I disagree with this in a few interesting ways. So the first is, when it comes to ossification, I've always thought of that term not as like a prescriptive measure, but as a description of what happens when you have more and more entities on the network that have competing interests. My classic picture of this is, it's like the Reservoir Dogs Mexican standoff. Mm-hmm. And that's Bitcoin governance, because it's like everyone's trying to do their own thing and the whole system works together because of the incentives, between that. And when you have more and more people who are like that, it might be harder to find ideas that are shared by enough of them to actually find a foothold. And on the other hand, if you do find an idea that works for everyone, it's also probably a really awesome idea. I think there's some ways that people fall into discourse where it's like too extreme, in the sense of like they forget certain things, like even if we quote ossified, there's still bug fixes that have to be done, and those could, on some theoretical level, end up with some like incidental effect on consensus. Like, no change to Bitcoin Core is without some possible effect. And so that stuff is still going to be happening. And so you never really have, like, software is never truly complete. So I definitely understand people's conservative interests. Like, we like what things are. I think it's important to make sure that we fully appreciate what that does and does not mean, because there's ways in which we might we might end up including more than we meant. So like, you know, not bug fixing, even though because it's like, oh, well, we don't want to change the code at all. For a lot of people, that would be a straw man, which it would be a straw man for a lot of individuals. My point is like, we want to make sure that we don't fall into things like that. And I guess my point there is more is like, I don't know the full extent of what other ideas there might be like that I just haven't realized that I was following. I thought big blocks were a good idea once, you know, back in the early days. You know, I read on the Bitcoin wiki once, it was like, hey, you could just like increase the block size, and not as much thought had been done around the nature of forks and backwards compatibility and so on and so forth. And so it's like, oh yeah, that seems like an obvious thing. And it took actually diving into that and thinking through it, that led to realizing it's like, that's actually one of the worst ideas ever. Of just like, let's just raise the block size. So I do think I'm not calling anyone out here. I do think that intellectual humility is an extremely important virtue. I'm not necessarily very good at it myself. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I do think that more people should think on that and just and just think about intellectual humility in general. And that just goes for everyone. That's not even, like I said, I'm not even trying to call anyone out. I think literally everyone on every side, because there's also times where certain rifts can come about due to misunderstandings of one another. So, you know, I think intellectual humility could probably also invite a little bit more diplomacy among these different camps, to be able to effectively communicate what it is they're trying to get to and work out actual points of agreement and disagreement. And I do think that basically intellectual humility would help with, you know, trying to create more of a spirit of dialectic instead of rhetoric.
Yeah.
So that's, and I should also say is like, this is just something, this is also I'm trying to be like a timeless wisdom here. This is something that we should always be thinking about. Even post-hyper Bitcoinization, and everyone's on this, like we should always have that in mind. Because, there might be a way that Bitcoin could be made better. There might be something that we need to just actually fix with Bitcoin. You know, we've had inflation bugs, and so we should just keep that in mind. But also, as soon as you find bad faith, deal with it. I kind of want to just say ruthlessly. Yeah, not. You know, take that as you will, I suppose. But you know, bad faith needs to be rejected. And so, if people cannot engage in good faith, then they should. It should be handled appropriately. Yeah. And yeah, I don't go watch my talk to get the full thing on that.
I can't believe it took us 7 years to do this. Again, I can go on for hours. So
we could just go on for, we can just have a year-long rip here to catch up.
Send us live, Logan. We're gonna do a marathon live stream.
Well, hey, you know, the fundraising, you know, we can have like
we should
hotline.
Do that, actually.
We have like people just waiting on Nostr DMs, you know, instead of like for the phone. It's like everyone's just on their phone waiting for a Nostr DM, and we have like a variety hour. So we have like Matt Snow come out and play guitar, and then we have BTC Minstrel come out and sing some songs.
Well, if we do it and it's televised, everybody's got to wear a suit. This is one thing.
Yes.
Justin Moon tried to start for Austin Bit Devs, but he started slacking. We need to dress better.
Yes. I dress like a slob, so I have to fix that myself. But yeah, we probably should upgrade from t-shirts.
Yeah, everybody's wearing a suit, answering phones.
yeah, in the back, they're answering their phones, and we have all this stuff. We have, Sailor comes out and like gives a rip roaring. There is no second best rendition.
Are we brainstorming an annual Satoshi Nakamoto Institute?
I think this is going to have to happen.
A telethon, I think so.
Yeah, here at the TFTC studios.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
That might need to actually happen.
Stay tuned. Donate to the Nakamoto Institute, particularly for this fundraiser. Let's get this over the hump and bring beauty back to the world.
Yes.
The implementation of these design ideals.
Yes. Liquidate fiat ugliness.
Yes. What? Where should we send people?
NakamotoInstitute.org. It's the website for the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute. You can go to /donate if you wanna donate. There's links to our newsletter, links to all of the library, the blog, all the good stuff you'll be able to find. And then we're on Nostr. I think primal.net/SNI is like an easy way, I guess, to find. I don't want to like read off our Nostr. Should I do that? I can get our Nostr.
Yeah, get your
Nostr
npub
npub and just read it.
Primal.net/SNI is a very, very clean.
Yes, so that's the easiest way, and even if you don't use Primal or anything, you'll be able to find the Nostr pub key from that. You can also follow us on Twitter at Nakamoto Inst, INST. And then you can also follow me, Bitstein, on Twitter. I'm also on I am on Nostr, and primal.net/Bitstein will get you to my Nostr pub key, and DMs are open, and I love hearing from people. And if you have any interest in getting involved, if you have some cool ideas, if you have if you know other languages and you want to do some translation, if you have coding skills, it is an open source website, and you can help us out on GitHub to beef up the website and help us build out what it's going to take to do the things we want to do. And also if you just have sats and you care about making sure those sats remain, like if you want your generational wealth to pass on through the generations, our goal is to help you. And if you think that we can indeed help you with that goal, please donate so that we can do our part.
Hell yeah. Michael, I feel incredibly blessed to know you, and have been able to learn from you over the last decade. You've taught me a lot, and thank you for what you do. If you freaks for some reason or another have not gone to the Nakamoto Institute, do it. Consider donating. And yeah, I think this is the beginning of something special, generational, multi-generational. So I'm very excited to see what you build moving forward.
Thank you so much, and glad I'm finally here. Let's do it again.
Yeah, we will. Peace and love, freaks.